One of the most guarded and impenetrable prisons in the world is the Alcatraz, which is located on an island that is surrounded by sea. It is a jail where all of the most dangerous convicts are imprisoned. Jail in the world. The prison was the site of several escape attempts, all of which were unsuccessful, with the exception of one that was deemed to be the largest prison break in the history of the world. The jailbreak was methodically planned and carried out by a group of highly trained men. It was around 61 years ago that the most successful escape from a prison took place. It was characterized as the most successful escape from a prison. 1934 was the year when the jail was established, and it was opened due of the mystique that surrounds this invincible walled prison. As well as over the last 28 years, nobody had ever been able to. There was no escape from it until 1962, which was a year after the jail was closed. This may have had a role in the decision to shut the prison, but the prison was closed owing to the exorbitant expenses associated with maintaining a prison. The notion that the jail was constructed on an island that was surrounded by icy seawater from all sides, and that it was located approximately 1.25 miles away from the shore in San Francisco, was perpetuated by the administrators of the prison, meaning that even if a prisoner were to manage to escape from the facility, it would be quite difficult for them to make it across the icy ocean, where the temperature of the water is hovering at 53 degrees Fahrenheit, even in the highest temperatures. In addition, over the summer, the administration of the prison and the guards propagate a few tales in order to terrify the inmates and prevent them from even considering the possibility of a breakout. They used to tell the convicts, for example, that there were sharks in the ocean, and that if someone had ever managed to escape and swim in that icy water, they would have undoubtedly consumed him as a delectable meal. Additionally, the sharks had informed the inmates that the prison guards are very adept in targeting and shooting, and that they were under instructions to instantly shoot any prisoner who posed a threat to their safety. Was attempting to flee, despite the fact that all of this was nothing but a fiction. The administration of the jail continued to circulate these myths and reinforce them in order to enhance the prison myth via those. There was an implicit message sent to the inmates by the administration of the jail, which was that they would never be able to leave the facility before the completion of their terms because of the high level of security that was present in Alcatraz prisons. Many of the most dangerous offenders were placed in jail in order to prevent them from thinking about the outside world. Among the well-known names who were currently in prison, many of these individuals were placed there. At spite of everything, Al Capone, the notorious American gang boss, was incarcerated at Alcatraz jail. Machine Gun Kelly, a well-known gangster and one of the most deadly criminals, was also incarcerated there. Alcatraz prison was the last destination for many criminals. In light of this, do you believe that the offenders would be able to maintain their tranquility and calm if they did not seek to get out of jail? Of course, this is not the case. During the time when Alcatraz was open, there were 14 attempts to break out of prison. The only one of them that was successful was the jail escape that ruined Alcatraz's image. All of the other attempts were unsuccessful, and the convicts either returned to prison or were murdered. Today's story is about the prison break that occurred. There were 4 convicts who were responsible for planning and carrying out this operation. The first of these criminals was Alan West, the second was Frank Morris, and the third and fourth were... Actually, John and Clarence Anglin were brothers, and if you had ever heard the tale before, you would have said that there were only 3 people who managed to escape from Alcatraz prison: Frank Morris and the other 2. When it comes to the Anglin brothers, there was an issue at the escape night, and we are going to discuss it later on. However, it is important to bear in mind that Alan was the one who was responsible for the situation. The 4 detainees had previously attempted to escape, which led to their incarceration. Hence, they were sent to Alcatraz jail so that they would not attempt to escape again. The notion of breaking out was offered. Again, as was noted before, Allen was the one who proposed the concept. The inmates were given labor to do within the jail, such as cleaning carpentry. In addition to repairs and other tasks, Allen West was assigned the responsibility of cleaning the roof of the cell. As you can see, the roof is located above the cells. While Allen was cleaning, he observed that there a path that went to the top of the structure, which was not substantial since it was not filled with concrete like other holes. There were steel rods, but they were simple to cut or break. Because of this, Allen West proceeded to notify Frank Morris, who was in the cell next to him in their cells, that if he was able to discover a means to break or cup the steel rods, there would be a chance for him to escape from jail. Frank Morris started to develop an exact strategy to escape via the ventilation hole that was discovered by Allen West. Although it is true that Allen was the one who came up with the concept, Morris was the mastermind behind the plan since he was the one who came up with the idea. According to the data kept in the jail, Frank Morris has an IQ of 133, which indicates that he is a highly brilliant guy. However, he has not yet achieved the level of intelligence that he is capable of. He is believed to be a genius, but his intelligence level is estimated to be in the top 2% of the population of the globe. Frank Morris started putting up the escape plan, and the first thing he did was invite the two people. Brothers John and Clarence Anglin, whose cells were next to his, joined them in the escape plan. The fact that their cells were positioned in close proximity to one another was one of the primary causes that led to their participation. The only route to access that ventilation pipe hole, which was found by Allen West, was via a hallway behind our cells, which contributed to the fact that they were able to keep continual contact with one another. That is to say, there were tunnels for hygienic ducts located behind their cells. Thus, they needed first to exit their cages and make their way to the passageway, and then they could simply ascend those ducts in order to reach their destination. Because of the ventilation hole, the steel rods were cut, and they would be on the top of the jail. The issue that has to be answered is how they might escape from their cells, since there was a door in each cell. Little ventilation entrance, but it was so small that no one could get through it. However, Frank Morris, who became the operation leader and the mastermind behind the scheme, observed that the lengthy years had passed since the concept was first conceived. In addition to the salty ocean that had an effect on them, the prison walls had been weakened as a result of the lack of maintenance, which made it simple for them to dig in the walls. However, in order to dig, they need tools, which they had managed to get. Spoons, which they continued to dig from day to day. Exactly as you can think, it took them months to enlarge the openings in order to go through them easily while they were excavating, despite the fact that none of the guards were there throughout the digging process. Not be able to see or hear them, and they should keep their job a secret. It was said that they used to work when the convicts were playing their musical instruments. As a result of the fact that the detainees were permitted to play their instruments for a period of 1 hour each night, it was assumed that they had most likely been employed during that time period. Taking advantage of the loud sound that was produced by the instruments in order to avoid being detected, in addition to the fact that there was sometimes maintenance work going on within the jail, which caused some noise, so they began digging. At the same time, 4 convicts would go out on dates whenever they had the impression that they were away from the guard site. Additionally, they would designate one of the inmates to keep a watchful eye on the guard site. Passageway, in order to determine whether or not a guard was approaching due of the vast number of guards that were present at Alcatraz jail. This prison had the highest number of guards of any other prison in the United States. The guards at the jail used to do a sudden count of all of the prisoners at any one time. In addition, the other convicts who were in the cells that were adjacent were aware of the escape plan. They were able to observe them excavating the ventilation openings, but no one had reported them. On the contrary, they used to assist them while I was a prisoner here, and everyone who sought to do so was allowed to do so. In the event, if you wanted to escape and wanted to flee, I would assist them in any way that I could. If is what a good prisoner does, he helps another person in any way that he can. If you want to go or not, he will help you. According to the report from the FBI, the number of convicts who were aware of the escape plan was close to 80, and none of them talked about it. If you are able to assist him, you will assist him. During the digging process, they needed to disguise the openings, so they constructed cartoon boards in the prison workshop and painted them whatever they wanted. This amount was approximately half of the convicts that were at. On the night of June 11th, they moved quietly through the prison corridors, their hearts pounding in their chests. The atmosphere was thick with tension. As night fell, the prison became a shadowy maze of echoes and whispers. The guards moved through their rounds, unaware of the daring plot unfolding within their walls. On the fateful night of their escape, the atmosphere was charged with anticipation. As they slipped out of their cells, the cold air brushed against their skin, invigorating them with a sense of purpose. They climbed through the ventilation system they had painstakingly opened, emerging onto the roof. The cool night air was a stark contrast to the stifling heat of their cells. They felt a mix of fear and exhilaration as they made their way to the edge of the island, where they had hidden their carefully crafted raft. With adrenaline pumping through their veins, they launched their raft into the choppy waters. The bay, notorious for its swift currents and frigid temperatures, posed a significant threat. But there was no turning back now. As they paddled into the darkness, hope mixed with fear. Every splash of water echoed their uncertainty about survival. The three men fought against the waves, driven by the vision of freedom that had sustained them through their years in captivity. Meanwhile, back at Alcatraz, the guards began their rounds. It didn't take long for them to notice the absence of the three inmates. An alarm sounded, and panic set in. The prison that had housed so many dangerous criminals now faced the reality of an escape, launching a manhunt that would span the region. Searchlights flickered across the waters, illuminating the foggy night as the guards called for backup, frantically searching for any sign of the escapees. The discovery sent shockwaves through the prison. A sense of urgency filled the air as authorities scrambled to respond. Boats were dispatched, and the shores of San Francisco Bay were soon flooded with law enforcement. Helicopters circled overhead, scanning the waters for any sign of the three men who had dared to challenge the might of Alcatraz. The odds were stacked against them, but the thrill of the chase only heightened their resolve. After successfully crossing the bay, the trio found themselves on the shores of Angel Island, a temporary refuge. They had to stay hidden, constantly on the lookout for authorities. They scavenged for food and shelter, using the wilderness to their advantage. Their shared thrill of freedom quickly turned into the harsh reality of survival. Every rustle in the bushes made them jump. Every passing boat felt like a potential threat. They were free, but freedom came with a price. The search for Morris and the Anglin brothers intensified. The FBI was brought in, and posters bearing their faces were plastered throughout San Francisco. Despite the heavy scrutiny, the trio managed to evade capture, moving through the underbrush and avoiding populated areas as they sought a way to disappear. They relied on their instincts and the skills they had honed in their lives of crime, navigating the dense woods and rocky shorelines. Days turned into weeks, and the freedom they had longed for started to feel like a distant memory. The isolation weighed heavily on them, and the constant fear of being caught became unbearable. They knew they had to keep moving, but each step forward was fraught with uncertainty and danger. Their bond, forged in the fires of desperation, began to show signs of strain as the reality of their situation set in. They had escaped the prison walls, but now they faced an even greater challenge: survival in the wild. As the manhunt continued, the men found themselves grappling with the psychological toll of their freedom. The thrill of their escape was overshadowed by the grim reality of living as fugitives. They had risked everything for this moment, Yet here they were, battling not only the elements, but also their own fears and doubts. Each passing day brought new challenges, from finding food to avoiding capture. They could no longer rely on the thrill of the chase. They had to adapt to a new reality, where every choice could mean the difference between life and death. Months passed, and the media frenzy surrounding their escape only intensified. Headlines blared with stories of the daring escape. Speculation ran rampant, and the public became captivated by the mystery of the three men who had eluded the authorities. Some believed they had perished in the frigid waters of the bay, while others held on to the hope that they had successfully started anew somewhere far from the prying eyes of law enforcement. The legend of the Alcatraz escape grew, turning the trio into folk heroes in the eyes of some. But what truly happened to Frank Morris and the Anglin brothers remains shrouded in mystery. Despite the relentless search, no solid evidence of their fate was ever found. Over the years, countless theories emerged, each more intriguing than the last. Did they find safety on the mainland? Or did the harsh waters claim their lives? The uncertainty surrounding their escape became a captivating narrative, with many still believing that they lived to tell the tale. The story of the Alcatraz escape is not just a tale of desperation. It speaks to the human spirit's resilience and the lengths to which individuals will go to attain freedom. Their determination and ingenuity serve as a reminder that even in the darkest of circumstances, hope can prevail. As years passed, the legend of their escape continued to inspire countless stories, documentaries, and discussions, capturing the imagination of those who dare to dream of freedom against all odds. Ultimately, the fate of Frank Morris and the Anglin brothers remains a tantalizing mystery. Their audacious escape from Alcatraz not only marked a pivotal moment in the history of American prisons, but also left an indelible mark on the collective consciousness of a nation. The allure of their story lies not only in the daring escape, but in the questions it leaves behind. What lengths would you go to for freedom, and what price are you willing to pay? Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey through the world of prison escapes. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more gripping stories from Escape Files.